It's 7:02 on a Monday morning, and you're standing in the parking garage of Halbrook Systems, badge in hand, staring at a spot 2 rows over where a brand new Tesla Model S just pulled in. Chase gets out first, sunglasses on before he's even out of the car. Laptop bag slung over one shoulder like it costs more than your rent. He waves, you wave back. Your own car, a 2013 Corolla with a duct-taped side mirror, is parked 4 rows further out, closer to the exit, because you've learned the lot fills up fast and you'd rather not be boxed in. You're 26, your badge says Data Analyst 2. Your salary is $52,000. Chase's badge says Senior Account Executive. His salary, according to a spreadsheet someone leaked in the group chat 8 months ago, is $118,000 plus commission that sometimes doubles it. You don't resent him for it. He's good at his job, genuinely good. The kind of good where clients ask for him by name. You just notice the gap. You notice it every single morning in this parking garage, and you don't know yet that in 16 years, the gap is going to mean something completely different than either of you expects. My name is Bobby, and this is the Wealth Insight, where we spend way too much time thinking about the invisible math behind two people living completely different versions of the same paycheck. Before we get into this one, if stories like this hit different than our usual breakdowns, let us know, because we're testing something new. Now back to the garage. Rent is $890 for a studio above. A dry cleaner that smells faintly of steam and detergent no matter the season. After rent, your student loan payment, and groceries. There's usually about $260 left before the next check arrives. You've never told anyone this, but you keep a spreadsheet, not a fancy one. Just a Google sheet with 3 columns. And every 2 weeks you put $75 into a Roth IRA because a woman named Ruth in accounting told you to. Ruth is 58. She's worked at Halbrook for 19 years. Drives a Honda Fit with a dent in the bumper she's never bothered to fix. And wears the same gray cardigan often enough that people joke about it behind her back. Not cruelly, just the way people joke about anything familiar. You started talking to her because the coffee machine on the 3rd floor is always broken, and hers isn't. One afternoon, watching you eat a sandwich you clearly packed from home. Instead of joining the lunch order, Chase organized for the team. She asks if you're saving for something specific. You tell her you're just trying to build a cushion. She nods, doesn't say much else that day. But the next week she leaves a printout on your desk, an old, slightly yellowed spreadsheet showing what $75 every 2 weeks becomes over 30 years, assuming average market returns. You don't say anything to her about it. You just start. Chase, meanwhile, leases the Tesla for $940 a month. He's not reckless, not in the way people mean when they say that word. He works 60-hour weeks some months, closes deals that fund half the department's bonuses, and genuinely believes the car is a business expense as much as a reward, since half his job is showing up to client meetings looking like someone worth trusting with 6 figures of their budget. You don't judge him for it. You just notice that his paycheck and his bank balance seem to be having 2 completely different conversations. 2 years pass, and if you're honest, almost nothing happens. That's not a way of skipping the story. That's the actual texture of it. You get a raise to $56,000, then $59,000. You bump your Roth contribution to $125s, a paycheck without really deciding to, the same way you stopped noticing the duct tape on your mirror. Chase gets promoted to team lead, buys a boat he uses 4 times that summer, and starts talking about a house in a neighborhood with a name that sounds like a golf course. You go to his boat party. You have a genuinely good time. You just notice on the drive home that the $40 you spent on gas to get there and back is $40 you'd normally have automated into an index fund by Friday. By 28, your account, Roth plus a small brokerage you opened after paying off a stubborn $1,800 credit card balance, crosses $14,600. Nobody at work knows this number. There's no reason for them to. You still bring lunch 4 days a week. You still drive the Corolla. From the outside, you look exactly like someone who makes $59,000 a year and is doing fine, which is true, and also somehow not the whole truth. Ruth retires that spring. Before she leaves, she says one thing to you. In the break room that you don't think about again for years, mostly because at the time it sounds like the kind of thing people say without meaning it precisely. She's packing a small cactus into a cardboard box and doesn't even look up. The market's going to scare you eventually, she says. When it does, don't touch it. You nod. You file it away the way you file away most advice you haven't earned the right to understand yet. At 30, it happens. The market drops 21% over about 7 weeks. One of those stretches where every headline seems to be racing the last one to sound more alarming. Your account, which had crossed $61,000 that January, becomes $48,200 by the second week of March. Chase, in the break room, tells anyone who'll listen that he pulled his 401k contributions down to nothing. Why keep feeding something that's shrinking? he says, and it's not a stupid question. It's the question almost everyone asks at exactly this number. You think about Ruth and her cactus. Don't touch it. You don't touch it. You do something that feels, at the time, closer to stubbornness than conviction, and increase your contribution by $50 because the shares are cheaper now than they were in January. 6 months later, the account isn't just back to $61,000. It's $79,400. The drop that scared you turns out to be the best 6 weeks of buying you'll ever get, though you don't fully understand that yet either. That same year, Chase gets engaged. The wedding is a whole production, a venue with string lights and a photographer flown in from 2 states over, somewhere north of $60,000 by his own admission, financed partly through a personal loan he mentions once, almost in passing, at his own bachelor party. You go, you have a genuinely wonderful time. You notice, quietly, that the gift you bring cost more than your entire investment contribution that month. And you don't resent it, you just notice it, the way you've started noticing most things about money now. At 33, something shifts that you don't fully register until weeks later. You're doing your quarterly check, a habit now rather than a chore. And you notice the account grew by $11,200 in 3 months. Your take-home pay that same quarter, after the promotion to senior analyst you'd gotten the year before, was $16,800. You do the math twice because the first time seems wrong. The account didn't just grow, it grew by more than 2/3 of what you earned working full-time for 3 straight months. That's the crossover, though nobody rings a bell for it. It's a Tuesday, a spreadsheet, and a number that quietly stops needing you as much as it used to. Chase, around this same time, makes director. New title, new office with a window, and a new truck to go with the promotion. Financed over 72 months because the truck he actually wanted was $9,000 more than the one that fit his old budget. And the extra room in the monthly payment, he reasons, is basically free once you factor in the raise. On paper, by every visible measure, Chase is winning by a landslide. His salary alone that year is $164,000. Yours is $71,000. If you lined up the 2 numbers on a whiteboard, nobody watching would pick you. Here's what the whiteboard doesn't show. Chase's mortgage on the golf course house, refinanced once already for the kitchen renovation, the truck payment, the boat slip fee, and a credit card balance he's been meaning to deal with for 2 years now, add up to roughly $800-900 a month in fixed obligations. His income supports it, barely, as long as nothing changes. Your fixed obligations, rent that's crept up to $100 to $340 after 2 renewals, a car that's finally paid off, and groceries, come to about $2,800 a month. The difference between what you both earn and what you both need doesn't look anything like the difference in your salaries. At 36, your account crosses $340,000. You do buy a car that year, finally retiring the Corolla after 190,000 miles. But you pay cash for a 3-year-old Accord and feel almost nothing doing it. No thrill, just a transaction. Chase sees it in the garage one morning and, not unkindly, asks why you didn't get something nicer if you could afford to. You tell him the truth, that you can afford almost anything at this point, which is exactly why you don't feel the need to prove it with a car. He laughs like it's a joke. It isn't. Not really, but you let him have the laugh. That winter, your mother's water heater fails and floods part of the basement. The repair and cleanup come to $6,400. You write the check the same day, without checking a balance first, without doing math in your head. 4 years earlier, this bill would have required a spreadsheet and a few sleepless nights. Now it requires a phone call to your bank and nothing else. Your mother thanks you like it cost you something. It didn't, not really. And the gap between what she assumes it cost and what it actually cost is the clearest proof yet of how far the numbers have quietly moved. At 39, your company offers you a promotion to analytics director. More money, a real jump, $27,000 more a year, and a role that would put you managing a team of 11 across 2 time zones. 2 years earlier, you'd have said yes before your manager finished the sentence. Instead, you ask for a week, and during that week you calculate, for the first time seriously, what your investments alone would need to cover if you stopped working entirely. They wouldn't cover it yet, not close, but they'd cover 18 months, maybe 22 if you were careful. 18 months you didn't have 5 years earlier. 18 months that quietly. Change the entire tone of the conversation with your manager because now you're choosing this job, not depending on it. You turn down the promotion, not out of fear, but because the extra hours would cost you something the extra salary couldn't buy back. Chase, meanwhile, is handling something you only hear about secondhand, through the office grapevine, the way most real financial trouble travels. His company has a rough quarter, commissions get restructured, his take-home drops by nearly 1/3 for 2 consecutive quarters, and the fixed obligations that made sense against a $164,000 income don't bend an inch to accommodate a smaller one. You don't say anything to him about it. There's nothing to say that wouldn't sound like judgment, even when it isn't meant as any. At 41, your account crosses $780,000. Your salary that year is $84,000, less than half what Chase makes, even in his lean quarters. You tell almost no one the real number, not out of shame, but because you've watched what happens when people find out. A cousin at a family gathering asks for a loan the week after you mention a strong year in the market. You start editing yourself, not lying exactly, just leaving things out, and it's the first cost of any of this that has nothing to do with money at all. There's a smaller stranger cost too. At work, you're still the same analyst turned lead in the same 3 work shirts on rotation. And a new hire, 24 years old, assumes out loud once that you're barely getting by and jokes about it in the break room. You laugh along. You don't correct him. Somewhere in that laugh is the understanding that looking modest and being financially secure are, to almost everyone around you, completely indistinguishable, and that most people will never know which one you actually are. At 42, you retire. Not dramatically, not with a party, just a conversation with HR and a 2-week notice like anyone else's. Your investments alone are generating, on average, more in a typical month than your salary ever did. And the number has finally crossed the threshold where the machine can run without you feeding it. Chase is still at Halbrook, still driving something new every 3 years. Still, by every visible measure, the more successful of the two of you. He takes you to lunch the week you leave, genuinely happy for you, genuinely curious how you did it on a salary that never once came close to his. You tell him the truth, the boring version, $75 every 2 weeks, a woman named Ruth and a cactus and a sentence about not touching it. Years where nothing happened, a crash you didn't run from. He listens. He's quiet for a second afterward. The kind of quiet that means something, is landing even if neither of you says so out loud. You think about the parking garage that first Monday, the Tesla, the duct-taped mirror, the gap you noticed every single morning and never once resented. The gap was real. It just wasn't measuring what either of you thought it was measuring. You're 42 now, sitting in a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning instead of a break room. No badge clipped to anything, no meeting to rush to. Your phone buzzes. It's Chase, asking if you want to grab dinner sometime. No agenda, just to catch up. You say yes, you mean it. The version of you in that parking garage 16 years ago thought the goal was to close the gap. It turns out the gap was never the point. What you did with the $260 left over each month was, if this story made you think differently about what doing well actually looks like from the outside, hit like and subscribe. There's more of these coming. And I'm curious, is there someone in your own life whose paycheck looks bigger than yours, but whose actual financial position you'd probably guess wrong? Tell me in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.